Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Alright, I am here today with a quick look at the Adventures of Robin Hood, the new game from Cosmos and Michael Menzel, of course the designer and publisher of the Legends of Andor. And people are always kind of surprised that I like Legends of Andor as much as I do, and I think that surprise is rightly felt because I'm not a huge fan of puzzly games, and Legends of Andor is a very just big puzzle. But one of the things I like about it is the cohesive nature of the entire thing, of the entire experience. And I think Legends of Andor does a really good job of portraying a work of epic fantasy. It also doesn't hurt that the art is amazing and the components are amazing. So with that, all of that said, I was really looking forward to the Adventures of Robin Hood because I wanted to see what was going on with Menzel lately. So this says that England, 1193, Nottingham County is suffering under the yoke of evil Prince John and his henchmen. You slip into the roles of Robin Hood and his companions, Little John, Maid Marian, and Will Scarlet, to fight against injustice and discover dark secrets. The Quick Start Guide plunges you headlong into the first adventure in this easy-to-learn family game. Grab your bow and arrow and join the fight for justice and equality in this cooperative game designed and illustrated by Michael Menzel, the award-winning creator of Legends of Andor. So this is a cooperative game. It is for ages 10 and up. And it's a very, very simple game. And I think that is one of its great strengths. This is a pretty lightweight game, and I like that. I'm in that headspace right now for lightweight games. I haven't been doing a lot of board game videos lately, and the reason for that is I am incredibly stressed out at work right now. I'm having some kind of like slow motion nervous breakdown about work, I think. And it has not been a healthy experience for me recently. So it is nice to just kind of have this simple game that very elegantly guides you through the process of learning. So this is a kind of one and done game. And the state of the board that you're going to be seeing, there are very, very minor spoilers for the first chapter, which is the tutorial chapter. So if you don't want to know anything, if you don't want to know or see anything, you might want to skip this video. Maybe come back after you've beaten the first chapter. What I can say is I am liking this game quite a bit for the most part. The main issues I have with it are the components so far, and we'll go over that in a little bit. So when you first open your box, you're going to be greeted with this is basically your instruction sheet to get started with. It is one page, and really the only thing that you need to learn what to do as you open the box is how to set up the board, how to divvy out your wooden tokens, your game pieces, and how to move your pieces and what happens when you don't use one of your movement pieces. And that is it. You also have a accompanying booklet that goes into a little bit more detail about certain things that you can reference, but you are told not to read this yet, and you really don't need to. The main things you're going to be worried about are the game board itself and this very nice book that the game comes with. Now, The Adventures of Robin Hood really is a combination work of interactive story, kind of a game book, and a board game. And I think it does a pretty good job of that. This, so far, if I had to bet on an outcome, I would say this really is a one and done game, maybe a two and done game, because it does look like the campaign does split into two different forks that you can go on. And so I believe through any one campaign, you're probably going to be playing through 8 or so, maybe 9 scenarios to beat the game. And you are going to be discovering stuff on the board. So on a second playthrough, there are going to be things that you are going to just definitely remember how to do. But that is kind of the same as Legends of Andor. So if you don't mind that, then you might want to further look into this game. So a couple things this game doesn't have. It has no cards, it has no character sheets, it has no punch boards. Component-wise, it is very simple. You have a few wooden cubes, some wooden discs, and some very nicely carved wooden meeples here. Some of the coolest looking wooden components I have seen in a game. Very nicely done. And man, if more like adventure and dungeon crawl games came with wooden pieces like this, I think that would be pretty cool. So you can literally have the game set up in a matter of seconds from opening the game. There's hardly anything to do from once you open the box to getting the game on the table, opening up this book, and learning how to play and diving right in. It is maybe the easiest game I've ever opened, set up, and got to playing right away. So very cool on that. The book itself is really nice. If you are a fan of books like I am, I think you're going to have a wonderful time going through this book. It is well bound. It's got 2 different color bookmarks because you will be using those to keep track of your place and of certain things during the chapter. So that's a really nice touch there. The inside covers have your the details about the different items that you are going to be using throughout the game. The back cover here basically has your detailed rules of your different interactions that you can have with the board. The paper quality is incredible. It's very thick, textured paper, just a very high quality book. It's bound nicely. I am very, very happy with the storybook. So far it's been pretty well written, not the best, but it has been interesting. And just doing really brief flip throughs, there is some nice pencil art, and there are cool little choices you have to make in the book depending on how you're interacting with things on the board and depending on which chapter you are in. I want to get to a negative right now because it's kind of led me to that, going from the really nice components of the wooden pieces are great, the book is great. I do not like the board. And this really does lead me to some apprehension of one of my most anticipated games coming up, which is Iridia, The Paths We Dare Tread, the new one from the team that did Xia Legends of the Drift System. And this game uses a similar kind of gimmick as that game, and that is a multi-layer board that has little things that you pop out and flip over to reveal other things. I do not like multi-layer boards, and the reason is they are always super warped. And there's really nothing you can do about that. I mean, these things are so warped because the way that multi-layer boards are made, the different layers dry or cure at different rates because the different layers have different thicknesses and different surface area. And so usually what happens is the top layers dry a little faster, and that causes a warping to the board. And I mean, these things are just like, they are so warped, and I just think it's going to get worse and worse, especially in a climate like we have here in the Pacific Northwest. And that really bums me out, and I'm really hoping that that game coming up does not suffer from this. Hopefully the designers of Iridia, I think that's what it's called, are paying attention to this game to to figure out better ways to make their cardboard components. Another thing is that when you pop some of these out, they can be very, very difficult to get out. This is kind of like punch board here, and I've already ripped some of these pieces, just gently prying them out. I've had to like super glue some layers together because as you get your nail under there and you flip it out, the art very, very easily tears away from the cardboard. It's happened on multiple times, as you can see. Like this one was one of the first ones I did, like even part of the board tore away. So yeah, I have a feeling that once you are done playing this game, it's going to look pretty beat up. And that is especially true with the smaller pieces that you will be prying out. The big ones pry out a little easier, but as you can see, like this one, it's already kind of like tearing where you put your finger in to pull it out. So I do not like that at all. I'm really bummed out about that, especially because the game is not cheap. You know, this isn't like a $40 game. So, but just keep that in mind. I would say if you buy this game, buy it as a game that you're going to play and it's going to just get beat up while you're playing. I don't know if there's anything that they can do on subsequent print runs to make the pieces come out a little easier and the art not tear. So just do keep that in mind, know that going forward. But the art, of course, from Michael Menzel is absolutely gorgeous. It's not quite as detailed as the various boards in Legends of Andor, but it's got a really nice pastoral look. I like the way it looks. And so far, I've liked the way it plays. So the way it plays is you're going to be working through a chapter in this storybook, and you're going to be learning the rules as you play. Things are introduced to you as you go. And the main loop of the game is you're going to have a different color disc for each player and a red disc for the enemies. So anytime you draw the red disc, that's when bad things happen. Anytime you draw a color disc that corresponds to one of your characters, here you have Little John's movement pieces. We have Robin Hood's here, and Maid Marian's and Will Scarlet's are in the box because I'm not playing with them right now. Anytime you draw one of the corresponding discs, you're going to have a turn with that character. And there's also a wild disc, and this allows you to take a turn with any character, any of the good characters. And a turn is really quite easy. You are going to be having your player pawn on the board, and the first thing you do on a turn, it actually has a really handy little guide here. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to move. Now you have 3 different ways to move. So you have your pawn on the board, and you are going to be using these little pieces here to guide your miniatures, kind of like almost like a little like tabletop war game with little rulers. But you have to connect them kind of like a train, and you can use this long one here for it to go really far, and then you'll take your second meeple here and you'll put that at the end. And then you'll pick up everything behind, and so that's where your character ends up. Now, one thing you want to do is you want to try to stay in the shade, because there will be, at times, there will be guards. Guards get flipped up. And these guards, if you are ever in an area without shade that has a flipped up guard, then that guard captures you, and you have to lay down, and then you have to defeat that guard to get away from him. And when you defeat the guard, you will flip them back over, and you will also add an hourglass token to that guard so they don't flip up too quickly for you to get away, to kind of create this like negative loop of just constantly being captured. You're quickly going to realize that most of these like oval shaped pieces are like guards, are bad things that you want to avoid. That's just from the very first few pages. You'll find that out. So you do want to try to move from shadow to shadow. The game is going to give you various things to do, and you do really need to look at the map, because any place where there is a question mark, those are places where you can interact with certain things. And for an interaction, what you do is if your end meeple is touching that square, you can turn to that page in the book there. And when you do, so if I wanted to come here and I wanted to examine, it looks like a beehive on the map there, then I would turn to page 64 in the storybook. And then it would tell you a little story about what you see. Sometimes when you turn to a specific question mark on the board, it's going to ask you which chapter you are in. So if we were to visit the merchant and we were on the very first tutorial chapter for the escape, we would turn to page 101 to find out what happens. Read another little story. Usually you have a choice to make, and then something good or bad happens depending on your choice. So that is really cool. I like the way that the book interacts with the map board. And then things, as you flip them over, most of the time they will stay flipped over. Sometimes the book will have you flip things back over. And on this first adventure, the escape, Little John is captured inside the castle, and Robin Hood is over in Sherwood Forest, and you both have to meet up outside the castle walls in an area of shade to win that chapter. And you do have to look around on the board to figure some things out. You have to figure out an escape plan. You know, Little John can't just jump from the castle walls. He can't come through the front doors there. And so you do have to look. It's not super difficult. It's not super puzzly, but the things that are on the map, the art on the map does matter. And I really like that, because a lot of times in these adventure games, the art that is on display really doesn't change things. But in this game, what you see is what you get. So if you go here, you will have an interaction with this guy pulling this cart of goods. When you go here, you will have an interaction with this woman, and so on. So that was really cool to discover that the art and the board is actually part of the game, and it does work in tandem with the storybook to create a interactive kind of open world experience. So at the end of the first adventure, I did like it enough that I am very excited to continue to play. However, I think this is a game that I'm going to hold off and play with my wife and this couple of friends that we play kind of like light to light medium adventure games. I think the most complex game we've played is like Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, which we love to play together. And I think this is a really good game to play with a group of people who have expressed interest in adventure games, in story narrative games, and games where you get to kind of role play a little bit and figure things out and get equipment. One of the things that you do, since there are no cards available, there will be times where you can get equipment, and when you get equipment like a rope or a sword or a horn, you're just going to take one of your cubes that corresponds to your color. So if you were Little John and you had a sword, you would just put a cube on this sword, and now Little John has a sword. And there are a whole bunch of other items that you will be able to get throughout the game. And that's really cool, because at the end of the game, you don't really need to set anything up. You don't need to worry about bagging up a bunch of cards and tokens for your characters. It's very simple, very direct, and it gets you into the adventure with a very low barrier of entry. I just wish that the board was better made. I wish that they could have done something to keep it from warping, but that's just the nature of these kinds of dual layer, multi-layer boards. I wish that the tokens popped out much easier. I'm just really bummed out about like this one right in the center of the board with that tear on the art. I just like that. My eyes are going to be constantly drawn to that. I might try to get like some watercolor or something and fill that gap in. But I have a feeling that by the end of the time I'm playing this game, the board's going to look pretty bad. And so even though it is like a one and done game, it'll be really hard to sell the game on, because everything will be kind of like just pockmarked. So it'll probably be a game that I play through once and then just give away to somebody. But yeah, so that was a pretty brief look at Adventures of Robin Hood. If you like Legends of Andor, I think I can recommend this game. If you want something that you can play with a family or friends who are looking for a light-hearted adventure with a low barrier of entry, I think you will also like this game quite a bit. And I am looking forward to diving deeper into the campaign for the Adventures of Robin Hood. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.